For you have not come to the mountain that may be touched and that burned with fire, and to blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of a trumpet and the voice of words, so that those who heard it begged that the word should not be spoken to them anymore. And so the writer reminds his audience, his brethren, of their forefathers and what they experienced. They experienced something that was so terrifying. They were so overwhelmed, they didn't want to experience it again. In fact, they basically came out and said, make it stop. It was too much. And so they said, Moses, you know what? You speak with us and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. And so the writer is capturing that intensity right here, reminding them what the forefathers went through. I want to take you to some rabbinical commentary in Shemot Rabbah, which is to say Exodus Rabbah. It's this. It's a group of works, if you will, Midrashim, commenting on the Torah and the experiences of their forefathers. It says this, the Torah says, and all the people saw the voices. So here they're at Mount Sinai, and it's saying it saw the voices. Note that it does not say the voice, as in singular, but the voice is in the plural. Wherefore Rabbi Yochanan said that God's voice, as it was uttered, split up into 70 voices in 70 languages, so that all the nations should understand. Now, you think about that for a second. How amazing is this recordation, this insight into the actual Mount Sinai experience? Number one, let me say this. The fact that the Aseret HaDevarim, these 10 commandments by God, were spoken not just in one language, not in the Hebrew language, but spoken in every language of the then known world. It was signifying prophetically what God intended to do with the gospel long before it ever happened. The covenant began with Israel, but it is just so amazing to me how this prophecy of the entire world being able to hear the truth of God, his commandments. That's an incredible thought. And, the number 70, as the rabbis allude to here, is split up into 70 languages. It was considered 70, all the languages of the world, because of Genesis 10. You have what is known as the Table of Nations, these descendants of Noah, because Noah populated the entire globe with Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? And so as you go to Genesis 10, it talks about these 70 nations. And then we could take it further. Israel went down as a whole into Egypt with 70 people. And so there's so much commentary. We could talk about how Israel, 70 going down, was marked out to represent the whole of the world. I'm not going to go down that path right now, but fascinating stuff. All this to say, this event that the writer of Hebrews, that he is describing, is beyond awesome. To peel this back a little bit further, I actually want to take you to the Mount Sinai experience and show you what the rabbis are talking about in regard to these voices. So let's go to Exodus 20, verse 18. And all the people witnessed the thunderings and the lightning flashes. Now, in the English, this doesn't sound like much in light of what we just read in the commentary. But when you go to the Hebrew, this completely transforms. And let me read it to you in the Hebrew. V'chal ha'am. So, and all the people, ro'im, which is to say saw. Or another word that they used here is witnessed. They witnessed. So all the people witnessed I'm going to highlight this, hakalot. Now, the translators oftentimes translate it as thunderings, but the Hebrew is kol. Kol would be the singular. It's for voice. That's what it is. And so naturally, as the rabbis, they're reading and studying the Torah in its original language, they come across and say, hakalot, it's kol in the plural, kalot. And so literally you would read it as, now all the people witnessed the voices. But it gets better. And then it goes on and says, Va'et halapidim. And that term where lightning flashes, actually in the Hebrew, it's torches. It's literally translated all over the place. This is what, like, for example, when you go to Gideon, the story of Gideon, which we did not that long ago, lapid is the term. And so here you see it's lapidim. And so it's in the plural. So it's literally a torch. It's a flame of fire. All right. So how it should read, if we want to be literal here, it should read as follows. Now, all the people witnessed the voices and the torches. Now, you think about that for a second. This Mount Sinai experience, where according to the rabbis, when the voices went out, they saw the voices and they heard in all the languages of the world. Now, what does that sound like? Well, it sounds exactly like Acts chapter 2, where tongues of fire, these torches of fire came down, were resting on people because the Holy Spirit had descended, and they were speaking in all the languages of the then known world in the first century. Oh, and it's interesting, at Pentecost, at Shavuot, is the time this happened. The very time the rabbis tell us that the Mount Sinai experience happened. Well, let's go to Psalm 29 and just build on this even further. The voice of the Lord divides the flames of fire. Now you think about that. So when the voice speaks, it divides the flame of fire, all these torches going forth, hewing out fire. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord makes deer give birth and strips the forest bare. And in his temple, everyone says glory. This is the experience that Israel had at Mount Sinai. Absolutely debilitating. And again, it was so terrifying, they didn't ever want to have it again. They didn't want to see the fire. They didn't want to hear his voice. It was too much. He is so holy, they couldn't handle it. So Moses, you speak with us and we will hear. And thus they asked for the mediator. With that kind of context, let's continue on. The writer says this, for they could not endure what was commanded, and if so much as a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stoned or shot with an arrow. And so terrifying was the sight that Moshe said, I am exceedingly afraid and trembling. So get this, the mediator of the covenant himself, who had experiences with the Lord, prior experiences, was terrified. If you put this in its larger context, it's even more impressive in the sense of, think about this. Think of everything that Israel went through. Think they saw the awesome and mighty hand of God as he rained down judgments. They went through the Red Sea with waters, a wall to them on the left and a wall to them on the right. Think about what they saw. They saw their enemies defeated. They didn't lift a sword. They didn't do anything. And at the same time, they entirely plundered the Egyptians, taking their wealth with them. Now, think about all this. It all pales in comparison to what they experienced at the mountain when the Lord revealed his glory. We go on, verse 22. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to an innumerable company of angels. Isn't that amazing? He says, but you, meaning in his day, the first centuries, my Jewish brethren, to you, guess what? You have come to a different mountain. You've actually come to the actual mountain, Mount Zion. You have come to a heavenly Jerusalem. What you possess now, your experience now, is greater than what our forefathers experienced at Mount Sinai.
Hey there, this is Mike at Corner Fringe Ministries. Thanks for watching our video. If you liked the video or it encouraged you, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the share. And if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. Now, if you want to watch the rest of this video, hit the button here. And if you want to watch the rest of this series, you can check it out here. And don't forget, you can download the Corner Fringe Ministries app today on any of your Play stores. Thanks for joining us at Corner Fringe Ministries.